So, have you ever noticed how certain words literally just feel heavier in your chest?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like
Well,
before you even think about what the word actually means,
yeah.
the physical act of saying it out loud feels like you're, dragging a stone across a floor.
Right. It's a very visceral feeling.
Exactly. Well, other words just feel light, airy, almost like they evaporate the second they leave your lips.
Yeah.
And I mean, we usually just write that off as poetry, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe some psychological association we have with the word.
Sure, like a placebo effect almost.
Yeah, exactly. But what if it's not a metaphor at all? What if the physical act of shaping consonants and vowels in your throat is actually manipulating the acoustic equivalent of earth, water, fire, and air?
It completely flips the way we think about language because, we're so conditioned to view an alphabet as just a utilitarian tool.
Just a list of letters.
Right, a random static list of symbols we use to build sentences and pass along information. But the sources we're examining in today's deep dive treat speech as this intensely physical, anatomical reality.
Yeah, and we're looking at a pretty wild synthesis today, right? Like linguistics meets ancient mysticism.
We're pulling from the ANZU Codex, and specifically, we're focusing on a structure known as the 405 AD Mashtotsian matrix.
Okay, so let's unpack what that actually is for a second. The Mashtotsian matrix is the original Armenian alphabet, which was designed by Mesrop Mashtots in the year 405 AD.
Correct.
But the text we're diving into today suggests that Mashtots didn't just invent a way to write things down. He supposedly arranged this alphabet into a highly specific 9 by 4 cosmic grid.
Yeah, and this grid acts as a kind of linguistic tuning fork. It's supposedly capable of mapping both human consciousness and the physical building blocks of reality.
Which is just wild to think about.
To really grasp how this works, we have to kind of discard the idea of an alphabet as a dictionary list. We need to look at it as a piece of heavy machinery.
Right. Think of this specific arrangement of letters as an ancient cosmic mixing board or like an analog synthesizer.
That's a great analogy.
Because when you sit down at a synthesizer and press the right keys in the exact right order, you aren't just making arbitrary noises, right? You are manipulating raw acoustic frequencies.
Shaping waves, yeah.
Right. And according to this framework, playing this specific 9 by 4 linguistic mixing board physically manipulates the material density of the world around you.
And to understand how to play that synthesizer, we first have to look at how the actual circuitry is built.
So the 9 by 4 grid.
Exactly. The original matrix consists of 36 letters, and they are organized into 4 vertical columns and 9 horizontal rows. The sources actually refer to these 4 vertical columns as the 4 great octaves of manifestation.
Which align perfectly with our base 10 number system, which I find super interesting. This is where the math of the universe and the sound of the human voice kind of lock together.
Yeah, the columns correspond directly to the 4 decimal tiers. So you have the ones, the tens, the hundreds, and the thousands.
So let's trace how a frequency actually moves through those columns, starting at the very bottom, right?
Yeah, let's do it. So column 1 represents Earth. It maps to the single digits, so numbers 1 through 9.
Base layer.
Right. This is the localized material container of reality. It is the densest part of the board. The very first letter in this column is a quap, which carries the numerical value of 1.
And the texts describe this sound as the divine spark inserted directly into the dense physical earth. It's like the grounding pin of the entire circuit.
Exactly. But once you move past 9, the density starts to shift. You cross over into column 2, which represents water.
So these are the tens, numbers 10 through 90.
Right. If the first column is the solid earth, the second column is the fluid circuit. It represents the internal rivers of the body, like the way breath moves and flows within you.
And there's a really vital mechanical threshold in this water column, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. Look at the letter Gad, which carries the value of 90. It sits at the absolute base of this column, representing the heaviest, densest liquid gateway.
It's almost like that critical point of pressure right before a liquid frequency is forced to vaporize and change states.
That is exactly it. Because right after 90, you boil over into column 3, which is fire.
The hundreds.
Yep, from 100 to 900. The source describes this as the intellectual forge. It's the volcanic heat, the mental illumination.
Like the spark that takes heavy, fluid, physical sound and burns it into conscious thought.
Which then naturally rises and expands into column 4, which is air.
The thousands.
Right, from 1,000 to 9,000. This is the spiritual apex, the unconfined atmosphere. It actually culminates at the letter Ki, which carries the ultimate value of 9,000.
Wow, 9,000.
Yeah, and this represents the celestial return back to the infinite open space. So you have this clear progression: earth to water, water to fire, fire to air.
Ones, tens, hundreds, thousands. It's so structured.
Yeah.
But, if these 4 columns are the raw building blocks, like the elemental scaffolding of this reality synthesizer, where are we in all of this?
That's a big question, isn't it?
Yeah. If this grid represents the entire universe, where does human consciousness actually sit on the board?
Well, the designers of this matrix didn't leave that to chance. The answer is locked right in the geometric center of the grid.
Okay.
If you look at row 5, which is the absolute horizontal midpoint of the 9 steps, the first letter of that middle row is ik, and it carries the numerical value of 5.
And what's wild is that in Armenian, the letter ik isn't just a phonetic sound. It is a standalone verb that literally translates to is or exists.
Yes, it is the physical declaration of present being, I am.
So consciousness in this framework isn't some separate piece you plug into the board later on?
No, not at all. It's the singular animating breath moving through the entire system. It descends down into the earth, processes through the water, ignites in the fire, and radiates out through the air.
The center holds it all.
Exactly. And the early mystics pointed out this incredible mathematical proof for this within the matrix.
Oh, right. The gematria part.
Yeah. If you look at the Armenian word for God, which is adzvadz, and you take the letters of that word and add up their numerical values from the grid.
The sum is 13,052.
Right? 13,052.
Which feels awfully specific, doesn't it?
It does, but it acts as a geometric locator through classical gematria, which is the practice of assigning numerical value to words.
Right.
The sum of that specific word mathematically proves that the concept of the ultimate consciousness was built to contain all 4 columns, all 4 decimal tiers, simultaneously. It touches the thousands, the tens, the ones.
It proves the architecture is deliberate. It wasn't just an accident.
Exactly.
So we have this static map on paper, right? A 9x4 grid.
Yeah.
But human beings don't speak on paper.
No, we don't.
So how does the human soul actually travel through this architecture? Because tracing lines on a chart is one thing, but pushing air out of a pair of lungs is a totally different thing.
And that brings us to what the texts call the phonetic ladder.
All right.
This shifts our focus from the abstract math of the grid directly into the physical biomechanics of the human throat. We can actually trace how breath transforms from a deep, heavy, subterranean sound into a high-frequency aerial strike.
Moving step by step up those elemental columns we just talked about.
Right. Let's actually walk up this acoustic ladder right now.
Okay, let's do it. So the base layer, representing Earth, requires pure friction. The sound is KH.
Yeah, think about where that sits in your body. It is a deep, dry, abrasive scraping at the absolute floor of your throat.
It literally sounds and feels like raw earth clearing the channel, like you're physically grinding stones together.
And then as you move up the ladder to the water column, you hit wheat. This is that letter God we mentioned earlier, the 90th rung on the board.
Right, the heavy gateway.
Making the sound requires a very heavy, deliberate constriction at the very back of the palate. When you vibrate that sound, you are feeling the dense, impossible mass of the physical earth. It takes effort.
Feels thick.
It does. But you don't stay in that heavy constriction. You push through it into the fluid transition.
Because that heavy, vibrating block of the God breaks open into this smooth, liquid glide.
Yeah, the source texts beautifully refer to this as the sound of sweet satisfaction. The letter transforms into a soft GH sound.
The hard friction melts into fluid momentum.
And that fluid momentum creates a surge of pressure that shoots straight up to the lightning flash. The letter Z.
The breath travels all the way from the back of the throat, hits the back of the front teeth, and compresses into this sharp, high-frequency spark.
Exactly. The heavy magma of the lower throat releases as pure charged air. The texts refer to this striking release as the sky fury of the ANZU bird.
So KH, GAD, GHC, you physically move from the deep floor of the throat through the heavy palate, riding a wave of fluid, to a spark at the front teeth.
It's a mechanical sequence.
It is, but there's a missing piece here, I think.
Ah.
Consonants alone don't make human speech. We've basically just built the pipes. What about the vowels?
Ah, yes. The vowel fluid dynamic is what actually makes the machine run. If those consonants, the KH, the Z, are the dry stone banks of a
Then
river,
the vowels are living water.
exactly,
Right.
the actual H2O that floods the channel.
So keeping with our synthesizer and machinery metaphor, the consonants are the heavy metal circuitry, right? The copper wire, the resistors. But the vowels are the electrical current.
Precisely. Without the vowels, your throat just burns with dry, abrasive friction. You get nowhere.
You need the fluid.
Yeah, and the sources break down how each vowel functions as a different physical state of that current.
Okay.
The letter AAP is hydrogen. It is the highly volatile, totally open-throated initial spark. It requires no tongue movement, no restriction at all. It's just pure, open breath.
Then you have the letters I and U, which act as compressors for the fluid.
Right.
Because the I sound forces the breath into a tight, high-velocity stream, almost like steam hissing out of a valve. Well, the deep U sound rounds the lips and creates this vast, echoing ocean resonance inside the chest.
And finally, the letter O acts as the oxygen binder. Just notice the shake of your mouth when you make an O.
It's a perfect circle.
Exactly. It sustains the flame, balances the extremes, and holds the frequency steady.
Now wait, I need to challenge this whole concept for a minute.
Sure, go for it.
We're talking about this grand upward momentum, right? Earth to water to fire to air, sparking against the teeth and flying out into the cosmos.
Right.
If this grid is built into our very anatomy and the system naturally wants to flow upward, why do we ever feel stuck?
That's a great point.
Shouldn't simply talking be an enlightened experience? Why isn't everyone walking around radiating cosmic air all the time? Can this biological synthesizer, get jammed?
It absolutely gets jammed, and that is perhaps the most crucial part of this entire framework.
Okay, so how does it break?
Well, if a system is designed for a frequency to evolve and release into the open air, there are mechanical consequences when that frequency gets trapped and loops back on itself.
The dark side of the grid.
Exactly. The sources dedicate a lot of analysis to this.
Yeah.
Specifically, they call it the MNMN alchemical trap.
The MN trap. Let's trace where those letters actually sit on our 9x4 board.
Okay.
The letter M, or men, has a numerical value of 200, and the letter N, or nu, has a value of 400.
And where are they?
They sit side by side, right in the middle of column 3, the fire column.
Right. Look at the math of that relationship. 200 and 400. Bouncing a frequency back and forth between those two values creates a perfect octave double.
It's a mathematical standing wave.
A closed energetic circuit. You are literally trapped inside the forge.
Wow. And the genius of this is how it translates physically into the human face, too.
It really does. Think about what happens anatomically when you say the letters M and N.
Well, to make an M sound, your lips have to be completely sealed.
Right. The vibration is trapped inward.
And to make an N sound, your tongue presses flat against the roof of your palate, completely sealing off the airflow through the mouth.
So the sound has nowhere to go but up into the nasal cavity.
It's entirely boxed in. It just hums around inside the bone.
Yeah, and the sources point out that across ancient languages, this MN root is the phonetic signature of the finite mortal mind obsessively talking to itself.
Like man, mano, man, man.
Exactly. It is the literal anatomical vibration of the material illusion. It's the sound of the finite human ego trapped inside its own skull, bouncing endlessly between 200 and 400, convinced that the noise inside its own head is the entire universe.
It's the physiological equivalent of overthinking.
Yes.
When you sit there mumbling to yourself, literally humming with anxiety, your lips are shut, your tongue is clamped down, and you are physically trapping the frequency inside the bone of your skull. You are caught in the MN trap.
So the burning question is, how do you break the loop?
Right. If the ego is mechanically stuck in a closed nasal trap, what is the alchemical key to getting out?
You have to inject the vowel of the infinite. You have to introduce the hydrogen spark, the A babe.
The letter A.
Right. When you take that trapped humming MN circuit and you add A to the end of it, you get MNA.
Notice the physical change there.
Yeah.
MNA. The jaw has to open.
The lips unseal.
The tongue drops away from the palate. That standing wave that was vibrating inside the nasal cavity instantly releases into the open air.
The trap is completely broken by the introduction of the open vowel.
And here is where the historical linguistics just blow my mind. In Armenian, the word minna literally translates to abide or to remain.
Which brings a completely new dimension to the source texts analyzing the quotes of Jesus.
Right, because when he uses the phrase abide in me, which translates to min,
The text argues we shouldn't read that as just a gentle, poetic metaphor about agriculture or vines.
No, it's a literal phonetic instruction manual.
Yes. He is giving the listener the exact anatomical mechanism to break the closed, finite ego loop of the mind.
He's saying unseal your lips, drop your tongue, and physically open your vocal tract to the infinite frequency.
It is an alchemical transmutation that happens entirely in the mechanical physics of human speech. You are breaking the standing wave of the ego and allowing the breath to finally reach the air column.
Which completely reframes the entire concept of meditation, doesn't it?
Oh, completely.
We usually picture meditation as this passive silence. Sit still, cross your legs, clear your thoughts, try to be as quiet as possible.
But everything we've looked at today demands the exact opposite. This is an active, loud, alchemical forging of breath inside the human body.
You are operating heavy pneumatic machinery.
Exactly. And the source material actually lays out a practical sequence for this. It's a way to physically use these specific phonetic rungs to enact the soul's evolution straight up the 9x4 grid, step by step.
Okay, let's explore what that actually feels like. Because if you're going to try this, you don't start in your head, right? You start at the base.
You take a massive inhalation, dropping the diaphragm as low as it goes. You are pulling the air down into the density of the earth column.
Then you ignite the friction. You make that deep subterranean scraping sound, KH.
You want to feel that dry friction at the absolute floor of your throat. It's harsh.
You are literally sweeping the debris out of the channel.
Right. And next you transition the breath up to the heavy 90th rung in the water column. You vibrate the back of your palate with that heavy, earthy gad sound.
You have to lean into the resistance. It should feel incredibly dense, like you are trying to vibrate the actual physical weight of your bones.
And once you feel that pressure peak, you introduce the fluid. You let that heavy, scraping constraint dissolve into the smooth, liquid GH glide.
The tension in the throat gives way.
Yeah, and to give it power, you flood the channel with the deep U vowel, that vast ocean resonance. The friction turns into a roaring, liquid torrent of sound.
And finally, you strike the apex, you drive that torrent of air all the way forward, press against the back of your front teeth, and release the Z.
You visualize this high-frequency lightning strike of consciousness flashing out of the forge and violently expanding into the open air of the cosmos.
You've just walked the system.
You took the raw, dense material of the earth, lubricated it with the water of the vowels, heated it in the forge of the mind, and released it as pure spiritual air.
The body isn't just a meat sack. It's a laboratory.
It really is.
It's just wild to think about language this way. I mean, we started by looking at the 405 AD Mashtatsian matrix, this 9x4 grid of letters, and realized it's not a dusty alphabet. It's a map of physical and spiritual manifestation.
Right. Earth, water, fire, and air mathematically aligned with the ones, tens, hundreds, and thousands.
We examined how consonants build the hard physical architecture of the earth and the fire, while the vowels act as the living water flowing through that circuitry, ultimately carrying the breath up to the spiritual air.
And we look at the trap of the ego, that closed loop MN standing wave humming endlessly inside the nasal cavity.
And we found the exit, injecting the infinite vowel, the A, to break the circuit, M and abide, opening the throat to the infinite frequency.
And we trace the exact physical mechanics required to strike that tuning fork within your own anatomy, transforming heavy subterranean friction into an aerial spark.
Which leaves us with a totally different perspective on the everyday act of talking. We started this deep dive wondering why certain words carry a physical weight in the chest while others feel light. So, as you move through the rest of your day, I want you to pay incredibly close attention to the sheer physics of the sounds you are making. Really feel the vibration of your own voice inside your body.
Yeah, when you speak to your family, your coworkers, or even when you're just talking to yourself. Where is the sound living? Is it trapped? Are your words clamped down, bouncing around on the closed-off, finite nasal loops of your own skull?
Or are you breathing from the deep earth, letting the fluid flow, and speaking out into the open air of the cosmos? The next time you open your mouth to speak, ask yourself, which column of reality are you striking?